Right, so we're turning to what's called the Shaar HaBlatt, the gateway page of the Tanya. Is you have to turn a few pages where it's written Oitza Chsidim Sefer Lekutei Amorim Chilek Rishon. You have to turn to that page. Keep turning. Yeah, that's what's called the. Everybody has it. It doesn't have any number here, so I don't know what number to give it. But it's called the Shaar HaBlatt. Everybody have it? Now it's well known that the Alter Rebbe wrote the first few lines of this Sefer Lekutei Amorim Chilek Rishon Nikra Shem Sefer Beinanim. Up until the words Be'ezah Hashem Yisborach were written by the Alter Rebbe himself. Have you got the page, Mordechai? Somebody? No, not that page. Not that page. No. It's further in. It's further in.
It's X.
Does everybody have it? Everybody have it now. So that's one on. That first section was written by the Alter Rebbe himself. The rest was added over the years by other authoritative people. But the section down to Be'ezah Hashem Yisborach was actually written by the Alter Rebbe himself. So just a few brief words about the Tanya. What it's well known that the Tanya is called by Chassidim the Torah Shebiksav of Torah Chassidus. It's called the written Torah of the Torah of Chassidus. Just like we have in the Torah in general, which was given to Moshe Rabbeinu B'Sinai, we have Torah Shebiksav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. In other words, that was given written to Moshe Rabbeinu that he should write down, and that became the Chamishi Chumshei Torah Shebiksav. Similarly, and then we have the oral Torah, which was given only B'al Peh, and was only instructed by Rebbe Yehuda Anossi to be written down much later in the time due to the pressures of the Golas. In a similar way, we have Torah Chassidus is divided into Lekutei Amorim Tanya, but that is the Torah Shebiksav. That's considered like the Chumash of Torah Chassidus. That's like the direct from heaven. I'll soon explain the justification of such a term. The direct from heaven part of Chassidus, which was given to us by the Alter Rebbe in his own handwriting, and then all the other Maimorim and all the other things, they're like the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which developed out of the Tanya. And the reason that the Tanya is considered the Torah Sheba'al Peh, we'll talk about that shortly. However, the Alter Rebbe, in writing the Tanya, he saw that, as we'll see later on, to be the embodiment in writing of what he should and what he had wanted to tell B'al Peh to all the Chassidim in personal interview with them. As he writes later, as we'll see in the introduction, which we're going to learn together, God willing, he writes that it's no longer possible for him to receive everybody in personal interview, in what we call Yechidas. Therefore, he's written a whole series of advice and spiritual plan, which he feels will be a general guide to all people searching for their way in Avodas Hashem. And therefore, the whole Tanya is like a series of Yechidasen with the Alter Rebbe. It's like us talking and experiencing a personal, as it were, interview with the Alter Rebbe. The purpose being to guide everybody according to the way of Chassidus, without him having to receive everybody in Yechidus, but nonetheless present them with a work which will everybody and every shirish neshama and every sort of person will find his way and his ability to solve his spiritual difficulties and problems in Tanya. Therefore we find an amazing fact that no matter how varied and complex may be the problems that people have, the questions that they may ask in regards to their spiritual lives and their problems in Avodas Hashem and things connected with Avodas Hashem, when you study Tanya carefully, then you can always find an answer to whatever problem may be hidden in the work of the Sefer HaTanya. And even to the point that no matter who you're learning with and what language you learn and what Pirushim you do or don't use in the Tanya, everything which appears later in detail in Teres Chassidus occurs somewhere or another in Tanya, and it can be found hinted at, or even more, it can be found explained directly or indirectly in the Sefer HaTanya. So that's enough just as a brief introductory remark. And the other observations which we will make by way of introduction, we'll make in the small text that the Alter Rebbe writes here. So he called the Sefer Likutei Amorim. Now the interesting thing is that when people translate the Tanya into English or other languages, they leave that expression as it is. They just write Likutei Amorim. So Likutei Amorim means literally chosen statements, or somebody is malakit in Yonim, but that means he chooses different things from different sources, and he goes around and he builds up a series of statements which he has chosen or picked or plucked from all over the place. That's what it means. Likuti and Amorim is an unusual word based on the word Amiro, or statement. In other words, it's a choosing together and a collection of things which have already been said. Likuti Amorim. Now with that, we can see the first sign in the announcing of his work on the part of the Alter Rebbe of his unbelievable modesty and holding himself very modest and small, that the Alter Rebbe immediately hints to us that he has not done anything original, and that whatever appears here is not, as it were, his own saying or his own composure, but it's a gathering together, like picking roses, like going around plucking from here and there of statements which have already been made. In other words, not he is the originator of these statements, but he's only gathered things which other people have said. Now that is indicatory of a whole line. That with that we could say that the Alter Rebbe is hinting to us that when it comes to Pnimis HaTorah and when it comes to Chassidus, you must never say your own things. We're dealing here, it's well known that every os in the Sefer HaTanya is holy and has tremendous, the Friedrich Rebbe writes in a Sikha, that every letter in the Tanya has all sorts of very deep Kabbalistic and other references, and every word for sure, and the way all the sentences are built. And it's well known the story that the Alter Rebbe sat once for 3 weeks, and he did not almost converse with anybody or have anything to do with anybody for 3 whole weeks, trying to decide whether he would put a vav on a certain word in the Tanya or whether he wouldn't. In other words, the Chassidim said it was in Perek Mem Gimel. I can't claim to know exactly which word it is, but there's a flow there of explanation in that Perek, but the Alter Rebbe hesitated for 3 full weeks as to whether he would put in a vav or whether he wouldn't on a certain word in a certain sentence. So every letter and every inyan is of unbelievable importance to the entirety of the whole Tanya. And just like the Chumash, if one os is missing, then the whole Sefer Torah is not readable because it's possible. In the same way, any os or any slight building of a sentence within the Tanya which is missed or misinterpreted adds to the, or rather subtracts to the whole worth and takes away, as it were, the whole message and the whole kashas of the Sefer HaTanya. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe calls it Likuti Amorim, that he's not saying anything original, he's only collecting things which have already been said and building them into a seichel collection and a flow, but it's not his saying. Now that's partly due to the unbelievable modesty of the Alter Rebbe, but as I said, it teaches us a point that you must never be original when it comes to Pnimis HaTorah. You must see that everything you say in Pnimis HaTorah must be based carefully on things which have already been written, and you can always say over in the name of the Rebbeim and your particular teacher who taught you what the Rebbeim said, but you cannot just ad lib or say chidushim within Chassidus, and particularly not in Tanya. And as well known, the Rebbe Rashab wrote a famous letter in which he urged people not to say any chidushim or try to be mechadish, to come up with a new idea in Tanya, but only to say over the words as they are. And he said the only place where he permits you to maybe add a certain observation which might be original was where you're talking about Avodas Hashem. That if it will help somebody to be more developed in his Avodah and more inward in his Avodas Hashem, then you're allowed to ad-lib slightly on the words of Tanya. But otherwise you must be very, very careful not to do so. And the Rebbe Rashab added that we understand the Tanya like a goat looks at the moon and brays. That's how we understand the Tanya. That was the famous expression from the Rebbe Rashab. So we're facing a very, very difficult task in learning Tanya B'Klal. And my mashpia used to always hesitate when asked to give a shiur in Tanya or to teach Tanya, and he used to say that he's frightened to teach Tanya because you've got to be so careful in what you say. And I heard from another great mashpia of mine, Reb Nachum Goldschmidt. He was the grandfather of the Rosh Yeshiva up here. That he said that every time he finishes a class in Tanya, which he was very, very brilliant, he said that he worries and he goes home very broken and upset that maybe he didn't really say that what the Alter Rebbe really meant, and if you didn't do that, then you were just misleading people. And who knows? He said that whenever you learn in Nigla, so either you get the right shot or you didn't, or you get approximately to the right shot. But he said in Tanya you can never really know, whether you're saying the emes kavana or whether you're chas v'sholem misleading people. And therefore we have to pray to Hashem that He should help us. And therefore the Alter Rebbe says, Lekutei Amorim, I'm only collecting things which have already been said by others. Chelik Rishon, this is the first part of the Lekutei Amorim, because there are other parts which the Alter Rebbe himself included in the original Sefer, and they are Shaar, Yichud V'Emunah, and the Chinuk Koton. Anikro B'Shem Sefer Shel Beinonim. But the name of these Lekutei Amorim has been given a general name, which is the Sefer of the middle men, the people who are the middle men. And of course, there's going to stand in front of us a tremendous task to work out who are these middle men, who are the Beinonim, and what is their status, and what's expected and what is the aim of the Beinoni, we're going to have to see at great length. So now the Alter Rebbe says that this Sefer has been, as we said, Malukat. It has been chosen and plucked literally from various places. He said, Mipi Sforim or Mipi Seferim Kedoshei Elyon Nishmosam Eiden. He said it's been gathered from the mouths of books, of Sforim, and from the mouths of Seferim. Now Seferim means sages or people who teach books, people who not necessarily wrote books, but people who taught what is in books. Therefore we know that the Chachomim in the Gemara and all the Chachmei HaMishna HaGemara are referred to as Seferim, and therefore anything which is from the Rabbanan, we refer to that as Midivrei Sofrim. This and this is also Midivrei Seferim, and therefore the word Seferim means great teachers who they also were not original teachers, but they received also, just like we see that the Sofrim in the Gemara, they don't teach anything original, but they only give over what they heard also. So, the fact that the Alter Rebbe says that he chose this from Sforim, well, that's indicating once again a very important cloud that we face when we face Chassidus Chabad, which we'll talk a little bit more about the yachas of the Tanya to Chassidus Chabad and the difference between Chassidus Chabad and other Chassidusim as we go along. That's not going to be the theme of this particular class in general, but the fact that the Alter Rebbe says he chose this from Sforim indicates that Chassidus is not something new. It's not something that the Alter Rebbe, Chas v'Sholem, would have claimed that he's producing a new shitta. And it's well known that one of the many major tainas that there were against Chassidus and against the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid and the Alter Rebbe and all the great teachers of Chassidus was that they were introducing a new derech into Yiddishkeit. They were trying something new which would mislead people and would take them away from the emes form of Yiddishkeit and would end up in Chas v'Sholem breaking the whole authority of rabbinic Yiddishkeit, etc., etc. The Alter Rebbe stresses that what he's writing is Melukat Mipi Sfarim. He's only gathered this from Sfarim which already exist. In other words, things which everybody holds to be dear, and he's not introducing a new shitta. He's only going to stress certain lines and certain themes which are already inherent in Yiddishkeit, in the literature of Yiddishkeit from previous generations. And therefore he stresses as Melukat Mipi Sfarim. And then he says, Mipi Seferim Kedoshei Elyon Nishmosam Eidon. And he said it's from the mouths of sages and teachers that they are Kedoshei Elyon, they are the holy ones of on high. They're very on a high level of Kodesh, of the sanctity. Kedoshei Elyon is an expression meaning a very, very high, holy person. Nishmosam Eidon, they've already passed away. They're no longer living with us at the moment in this world. Their souls are in Gan Eden, Nishmosam Eden. So now it's well known that when the Alter Rebbe wrote that, he's referring to the Baal Shem Tov and to the Magid, and to a certain extent to Reb Mendel Vitebsk, the Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, who took over the leadership of the Hasidim after the Istalkus of the Magid, but he only carried on the leadership actively in Chutz La'aretz for a short while because he went to Eretz Yisrael. He, together with 300 other followers, he went to, he was Eilat to Eretz Yisrael, and the Alter Rebbe was left in Russia, and the Alter Rebbe took over the leadership of all the Sidim in Russia after the leaving. So the Seferim are referring to these people, Be'ikar, to the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid, and Reb Mendel Vitebsk, that they were all Kedoshei Elyon, Nishmasan Eidon. Now, why would he call these people Kedoshei Elyon? What could we suggest is the remez in this expression that they are most high people, holy people of the most high level. It's a very, very elevated terminology to use about anybody, to call him a Kedosh Elyon. So we could suggest that with that the Alter Rebbe is hinting to us that why was it that these people formed the basis for his whole sefer, which is the whole basic textbook and written Torah of Chassidus. So the Alter Rebbe says because they were Kedoshei Elyon, that even in their lives they were Kedoshei Elyon. Not now that they're in Gan Eden, Nishmasam Eden, that they're Kedoshei Elyon, but they were Kedoshei Elyon when they were alive, when they were in this world. Now the word Kodesh means Muvdal. It's well known that instead of, in many occasions we're told that the root word Kodesh in Lashon Kodesh means separate, or Muvdal. And Elyon means very, very, very high. So was that meaning that they were really, in this world, they were really on another level altogether. So it's one on the old cloud. I brought down in a few places that when a guest comes only for a short time, then he's able to see at great distance and at great depth what's necessary in any household or any matter which he visits. And the purest being because he's not involved. He is a separate person, and since he's a separate person, he's able to look independently and with a, how do you call it, indefinite, what's the expression? Anyway, I've forgotten the word in English. An impartial eye, he's able to look at what is occurring. So the reason being that he's not involved here. He comes now to this place, all the issues and the factors which put together that scene which he observes, that he's not involved in them. And therefore he's able to see them and analyze them and give a whole practical advice how to resolve the problems and the difficulties which exist there. So somebody who is a Kadosh Elyon, somebody who is separate, a Muvdal, and he lives in this world, but he's just here in this world, not for his own sake, but in order to give advice to the whole world, then he's like an amazing guest, and he's called a Kadosh. He's called somebody who's completely and utterly Muvdal, and he's on such a high level that he's looking milmaila mata. He's looking downwards from a tremendously elevated spot on the whole of what happens in this world. And therefore, says the Alter Rebbe hints to us that the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid and the Reb Mendel Vitebsker were oid, that they were people who, being in the world, they were not here. And as the famous statement of the Frierdiker Rebbe has it, that the purpose of Chassidus is to teach us how to be in the world and out of the world at the same time. That the whole aim of Chassidus is to help you to be in Welt und aus Welt zusammen. You have to be in the world and out of the world at the same moment. That's the whole purpose of Chassidus. These people lived that papoyo in a sense that they were absolutely withdrawn and kodesh altogether from this world, and they looked down from a very high point, and therefore everything they said was of unbelievable accuracy, even to the smallest possible detail, and everything they said in Torah was not only true, but it was, as we'll see later on, the Alter Rebbe uses the expression emes la'amitoi. It was not only true, but it was true in the truest sense. In other words, absolute truth, not missing from any point or any angle of view. It was true. Therefore, that takes us to a very interesting prat in the whole claim that Tanya is well, it's not a claim, it's a statement on the part of our Rebbeim that it's the written Torah of Torah Chassidus, because the Baal Shem Tov also what Baal Shem Tov taught and what he said goes back very far in history. And it's well known that at a certain stage in his life, the Baal Shem Tov was taught by a very hidden mystical teacher that he couldn't recognize, and he didn't know who he was. Taught him for a whole complete year. Day after day he sat with this person and learned with him, and later he revealed himself to be the Novi Achia Hashileni. Now he's put down in the books of the Nach, the Achia Hashileni, and it's put down about him in the Midrash Chazal that he was from the Yotzei Mitzrayim. He lived for something like, he lived in a most amazing period of time. According to one Midrash, that he lived close to 400 years, I think it was, Achia Hashleini. And he was from the ones who went out of Egypt. He was also present at the Kriyas Yamsuf, and he went into Eretz Yisrael when everybody went into Eretz Yisrael. And he was a Novi, but he was also part of the Beis Din of Eliyahu Hanavi had a Beis Din, and Achia Hashleini was one of his Beis Din. And Bekitza, he was a most amazing, unbelievable person, higher than time, higher than place, who all the secrets of the heaven were open to him. So he taught the Baal Shem Tov for at least a full year, and it appears it maybe appeared to him from time to time even after that. So we see that the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov go all the way back in history to Achia Hashileni Hanavi, and to his experiences which began in Yetzias Mitzrayim Kipshutei, Mamish, in the going out from Egypt. So we see then that the words of the Baal Shem Tov are these Seferim Kedoshi Elyon, which are mentioned here. They go back very, very deeply in history, in such a way that there's, God forbid, nothing new in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, but they go back into the secrets of the Torah, and to even matters in the Nigla of the Torah, which began very, very early, even prior to Matan Torah.
Does Hashiloni mean anything?
Achio Hashiloni.
What does Hashiloni mean? What is it? What is this word?
Shiloni means a place. He's from a place called Shilon. Achio was his name, Achia Hashiloni. So that's the Sofrim. And the Magid is well known. He received from the everything from the Baal Shem Tov, and the Mendele Vitebsky, he likewise received from the Magid, and the Alter Rebbe was their Talmud, and he received everything. And it's well known, the famous quip which has it. It's a very deep quip that once the I think it was Reb Levi Yitzchok Mibadicho, that he spoke the praises of the Alter Rebbe in front of some of the other Talmudi Magid, and he said that the greatness of the Alter Rebbe was that he took more than all of us from the Magid, and he likened it to a they used to in the old days they used to have pots of soup. And they used to make them out of lokshen. You know what lokshen is? It's lokshen is how do you say lokshen?
Meat inside a pastry.
Yeah, it's like long spaghetti. You know what spaghetti is like? It's sort of thicker than spaghetti, long pieces of spaghetti. It's called lokshen in Yiddish, lokshen, and it used to be made with schmaltz. Do you know what schmaltz is? Chicken fat. It used to be the soup would be very, very rich in chicken fat and schmaltz and how do you call it, lokshen, and there would only be a bit of water at the top, you know. And so when the soup would sit, it would tend, all the lokshen and the schmaltz would tend to settle to the bottom, and it would go down, and the watery part would be at the top. The watery part of the soup would be at the top. So the Levi Yitzchok, he said wir haben alle genommen von demselben Schüssel. We all took from the same bowl. He said, we're all by the Magid, and we all received from the soup of the Magid. We all took from the same bowl. He said, aber uns alle haben genommen das Oberste. We all took the upper part, you know, the more watery part at the top of the bowl. He said, he said, Zalmenu, referring to the Alter Rebbe, he said, hat genommen de rechte Gedechte. Now, in Yiddish, there's an expression that the thing that settles to the bottom is called the true thick part. It's called in Yiddish the rechte Gedechte. And that means that the real schmaltzy, rich part at the bottom, where it's really thick and rich at the bottom, that's called in Yiddish the rechte Gedechte. So the Petitschwer, he said, aber Zalmenu genommen the rechte Gedechte. He took the deep part at the bottom, and he said, we, compared to what we took only the watery part at the top. That's what the Petitschwer said about the Alter Rebbe. At the far, the Alter Rebbe took the rechte Gedechte from the Seifrim, Kedoshe Elyon, who they were completely moved off from this world, and therefore they were able to see and guide us. And this work, which is only a taking of Amorim from all these sources, from the Sfarim and from the Seifrim, he said it's Miyusad, it has been founded, and I have established it, Miyusad al Posik, on a verse. And he said this verse is in the Torah, right near the end of the Torah, in Sefer Dvarim, in Pasha Nitzovim, right near the end of the Torah, and the pasuk reads, "Ki korav eilecha hadover me'id beficha ubilbovcha la'asoisai." That is a pasuk which occurs in Pasha Nitzovim, and it begins with a whole series of warnings in which it is said that loy b'shamayim hi, that the Torah is not in heaven, that you should be able to say, mi ya'alen lanu hashamayim v'yichachenu misham, who will go to the heavens and take it forth. V'loy me'eva layamhu, it's not on the other side of the sea, sheyema mishu, mi ya'avor la'eva hayam v'yichachenu v'yaviyena. Ela korev elecha, ela ki korev elecha, Adover made, only it is near to you, this particular Dover, which is referring to, according to the Alter Rebbe here, it's referring to the Klolos of Torah u'mitzvahs. The Ramban learns it's referring to Tshuva. Of the Alter Rebbe learns it's referring to the Klolos, Kol HaTorah v'mitzvahs, Dover. Yeki Korev Eilecha HaDover, or the whole service of Hashem through Torah and mitzvahs is close to you. Me'id, it's very, very close to you. Beficha, in your mouth and in your heart, that you should do it. Levaya, says the Alter Rebbe, I've come to explain, Heitev. I'm going to explain to you very well. Levaya, Heitev, Eich hu korev me'id. I'm going to explain to you how Yiddishkeit and the whole Torah mitzvahs is very, very close to you in this way, how it is Korav Ma'id, and I'm going to do that for you, B'derech Arucha Ukitzara Be'eza Hashem Yisborach. And I'm going to explain it to you in a long and short way with the help of Hashem. B'derech Arucha Ukitzara, with Hashem's help, Be'eza Hashem Yisborach. So we need to ask the Shaila, what is in that pasuk? What is so difficult that the Alter Rebbe says, look, I know you've got problems, and I've come to explain Levayer Heitev. Now, that's also an interesting using in respect to explain in a very clear, very good way, because if you look at the beginning of Sefer Dvarim, when Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the whole Torah, it's written, also the expression over there, that Moshe Rabbeinu explained the whole Torah to the Yidden ba'er heitev. He did it in a way of very, very good explanation. So, in other words, that the Alter Rebbe is hinting there at the ability of Moshe Rabbeinu to explain and to give over and to explain to you in a very, which is a very important dimension in the whole understanding of Tanya, that this is the talk and the teaching of Moshe Rabbeinu, and that the giving over of the type of teachings that are included in the Likutei Amorim, Sefer Shel Beinanim, have to go through a person in the status of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the whole teachings of Chassidus, maybe you should sit forward and make an effort, if you don't mind. All the teachings of Chassidus and all their explanation and bringing them close to us ma'id, need a Moshe Rabbeinu. And without the koyach and without the figure of Moshe Rabbeinu, as explained itself in Tanya, as we will say, I don't know if we're going to ever make those particular prochim, but in Perek Mem Beis particularly, the Alter Rebbe goes into that in some detail, and also in other parts of the Tanya. So what is so difficult about that pasuk? So we see that the Yiddishkeit has to be close to you, ma'id, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it. So some people come along and say that that's the three levushay hanefesh, machshava, dibur, u ma'aser. Leficha is your mouth, levavcha is your heart, but that's what you're thinking, machshava, and lasoisei is act, doing it in poel mamish. So ask yourself the amazing question: why did the Alter Rebbe write it not in a way? Why did the Alter? Why did the Torah write it not in a way which is according to the Seder? He put the Ficha first, and then Bilvavka, and then Le Asoisei. It should have been written, Bilvavka, Beficha, La Asoisei. First of all, Machshava, afterwards Dibur, and then afterwards Maisa. So, Beis Hashem, we'll talk about that, but today we're not going to have the time to go into that in detail, because that's a very fascinating question, which is dealt with in the Maimorim of our Rabbeim on certain places. However, what we need to work out is what is the difficulty in that pasuk that the Alter Rebbe feels he's got to write a whole book about it and explain to you. So we have to say that the catchword here is the bilvavcha. And later on in Tanya itself, he will say, in effect, that is the catchword. The bilvavcha can also mean in your heart, meaning that you will do Yiddishkeit with your heart, not just with your mouth and with your actions and with your mind in the form of a thought, but you will do it with your heart. In other words, you will love Hashem and you will fear Him. You'll have what's called Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe feels that that's not so easy, and it's not in the hands of everybody just like that, to serve Hashem with genuine Ava and with genuine Yira. And if the Torah tells us something, the Torah means that you've got to do it the right way, not just in an approximate way, even though the Alter Rebbe is going to show us that the Torah is being easy with us. In Tanya we're going to see that it's not talking in absolute terms, but the word Bilvavcha means that you've got to have Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, so that everything you do in Yiddishkeit will be based on love and fear of Hashem in the best and most highest and proper way that you can imagine. Now this is the basis of the whole Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. Once again, we see how everything comes back to the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And the truth of the matter is that even before the Baal Shem Tov, there were other great people that the Baal Shem Tov was makabel from. As is written in great detail in the Sefer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, what's it called? The Sefer Zichronos, the book of memories. What's it called?
Lubavitcher Rebbe's memoirs.
Yeah?
The Lubavitcher Rebbe's
memories.
memoirs.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe's memories. If you read that book, then you'll see that even prior to the Baal Shem Tov, there were unbelievably great people that they led up to the Baal Shem Tov, and their whole purpose was to show that every Jew and every Yid he must come to serve Shem with Ava Yira. And it's not only just the property of a few great scholars, but the demand on the part of the Torah that everything be done bil vavcha is the property of every Yid, and is the obligation of every Yid, and it's within Torah to teach it to him in such a way that he will also be able to appreciate it without in any way altering its high sources deep in the Pnimius of the Torah. And that's the aim of the Alter Rebbe, that he's going to show us how you can do this. Ba'eir Heitev, he's going to explain to you very clearly and very openly and very flowingly how you can serve Hashem ba'ava u'be'ira, with love and fear of Hashem, and to show you that if you don't have that, then you're missing the whole basis of Yiddishkeit. And that's the purpose of beficha u'bil vavcha. Be'ike, the emphasis here is on the word bil vavcha. But he's going to do it in such a way, b'derech harucha u'ketzora be'eza Hashem is bara. So ask yourself the shadow, what is that? B'derech harucha u'ketzora, a long and a short. It's like they say in English, the long and the short of it. So what did he mean with that, the Alter Rebbe? I'm going to show you in a long and short way. So be'ez Hashem, I'm afraid, what time do you have your supper? 6:45 or something?
Yeah.
When do they serve the supper? 6:45?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, 4:45.
So, what is it now? 6:50. So, I'll have to pause here. But I'm just going to tell you one little story to freshen your minds. That there's a Gemara in Masechta Eruvin. This expression, Harucha v'Kitzora, Terech Harucha v'Kitzora, derives from this story in the Gemara. It's written in Daf Nun Gimel in Masechta Eruvin that Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, he was from the great Tanoim. Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, he says that Le'olam lo notzchani odem. He said, nobody ever beat me in argument. I was always a very powerful arguer. He said, there was only 3 people ever beat me, and he said one of them was a small boy. He said one small boy beat me. Then he said, Pam Achas, I was going in a way, and I wanted to come to a certain city, and I came to this point, and all of a sudden there was a split in the way. You could go either one way or the other. And there was a boy, a young boy, was sitting at this splitting of the ways. And so he said, Rabbi Yeshua, so I asked the boy, what's the best way to the city? So he said, there are 2 ways. And he said, this way is a derech kitzora v'arucha, and he said, and this way is a derech arucha uke kitzora. So Rabbi Yeshua heard the word kitzora, and he was a person who was very guarding of his time. So he said, oh, I'll go the short way. So he gets he gets close to the city. All of a sudden, he sees that you can't get into the city this way, but there are all sorts of fenced-off orchards and how do you call them, vineyards, and all sorts of private property, very heavily fenced, that you can't get through to the city. He said, I have no choice but to go back again and go around the other way. So he comes all the way back, and the boy is still sitting there. He said, you naughty boy. He said, you misguided me. You told me derech kitzora. He said, Rebbe, he said, you didn't listen to me. I said it was a derech kitzora ve'arucha. And I said, this other way is a derech harucha ve'kitzora. In other words, it's a bit longer, but you get straight into the city this way, and therefore you save time. Ultimately, you save time. That's the story how it is in the Gemara. So that's where it occurs, this expression, derech harucha u'kitzora. So the Alter Rebbe said he's going to explain like the second way that the boy said that's really the better way to go, is to go arucha uke kitzora. How does that fit in? How does it surround the Tanya? We'll see Be'ez Hashem in the coming class, which will